What is your weakness? This is a tough and tricky interview question because you could fail the interview if you don't say the right weakness. The right weakness has to be a weakness disguised as a strength, or you have to explain how you overcame the weakness. So how do you figure out the right weakness to say in an interview? I've got 3 methods for you. Method 1 is to think of weaknesses and strengths as interchangeable. So any weakness can be turned into a strength, and any strength can be turned into a weakness. So what does this mean? Whatever your weakness is, there's a strength associated to it. And explaining the strength in your weakness can improve your answer. Here's an example. Let's say that your weakness is that you're too blunt in conversation. The potential strength of that is that you're more likely to be clear and concise in communication. And this can potentially lead to quicker decision-making and problem-solving. So in an interview, you could say, well, in the past, I've been told that I can be quite blunt in conversation. However, because of this, I find that I can communicate my ideas more clearly and concisely. This helps not only myself, but my team with quicker decision-making and ultimately more efficient problem-solving. However, I am working on my delivery to be more gentle and more mindful when explaining my ideas. Method 2 is to use your job description to identify your weakness. For example, if you're applying for a customer service job and the job description says, able to work in a fast-paced environment with direct customer interaction, your potential weakness could be working in a slow-paced environment with no customer interaction. You then have to explain how you would overcome this weakness. For example, you could be proactive and seek out more responsibilities when things are going slow. So in a real interview, you could say, I really do enjoy a customer-facing role in a fast-paced environment as it's motivating and exciting to me. So for me, a weakness would be having to work in a constantly slow-paced environment with no customer interaction, because this means that I'm not being challenged in my role. However, I do understand that sometimes there'll be quiet periods. And during these times, I'll proactively seek out additional tasks to keep the pace of activities. Method 3 is to talk about a weakness you've already solved or you're already working on solving. So for example, if your weakness is overcommitment and taking on too much workload, but you've already resolved this issue, you can still talk about this. And then you talk about how this weakness has now become a strength. Here's an example. I tend to overcommit and take on too much workload, but I now ensure that I prioritize my personal workload and use accurate time estimations to complete my tasks. Because of this, I've now improved my prioritization and time management skills. Quick tips. Don't say a weakness that's important to the job. For example, don't say that you have poor attention to detail when the job you're applying to requires you to analyze data all day. 2, always talk about how you overcame this weakness, what you learnt, and how that weakness has now become a strength. Finally, always be positive and use positive language when explaining yourself.